Ever since the announcement of the FSOA changes and anime debt changes, there was a lot of uproar in the community, and from the start I have been saying, don't worry about it, it probably won't be as bad. But it is finally released, and how bad is it actually? Well, let's talk about it. Before commentary chef starts talking, here's a clip of me getting my first ever solo ambi kill, and it shows how bad it actually is, because I wasn't able to do it beforehand. Wait. That's contradictive. We're doing it. Let's fucking go. Oh my god, we got crossbow pieces as well! There's no way, bro! First solo crossbow piece, bro! Oh, you can't make that up, bro! Oh my god, you can't make that up. Yo, Stab, thank you so much for the follow, dude. It doubled. No way it did. No way it did. No way it doubled, bro. You're joking. Yo, Jared, thank you so much for the follow. Wait, no way it doubled. No way it doubled, bro. No way it doubled, bro. Yo, what's going on guys? My name is Ulrich and today we're going to be talking about the changes made to the fracture staff of Armadyl and the effect on the game in general that it had since its release about 2 weeks ago. I think now is the perfect time to really just sit down and talk about it. Now everyone has been able to use it in the live game and see what they think of it, and this point of view from me is coming from someone who's aggressively average at PVM, as Mr. KJ would call it, and a professional planker, as my Twitch chat would call it. I'm live every single day, by the way, at 5 PM game time, link in the description down below, and I want to know your opinion in the comment section down below as well. What do you guys think about these rebalances of the fracture staff of Armadyl? Because I don't think it's a nerf, and to a certain extent it's even a buff for certain types of players, but we'll get into that when we talk into more detail. But yeah, I want to know your guys' opinions, and if your opinion is just like, oh, I want the old version back because it was easier, then sure, that is fine, but I also hope to read more in-depth things than just that, because I understand you want your more brain-dead way of PVMing back, but understand as well that that's not really the point of having a tier 95 weapon and a lot of switches and stuff. Like, it kind of defeats the point, at least in my personal opinion. But you can have your own opinion, and that's why we appreciate everyone in the Twitch channel as long as it is constructive and not in a shouty, hateful way. But yeah, leave a like in the video as well, because it generally helps me out. And subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. And let's just get into it. So first things first, I think it is important that we discuss what exactly changed about the fracture staff of Armadyl. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you guys with some meta explanation, because one, I don't understand that myself, and two, I am aware that people that watch my channel, including myself, are more casual or less hardcore types of players when it comes to skill level of PVM. And I know that there are some good PVMers watching this and probably thinking, Jeff, what you're saying is not completely true. If you want to put a good explanation of what exactly changed in the comment section down below, feel free to do so and I will pin it. So if you're interested, go check that out. But pretty much what has changed is how the special attack functions. Before the rebalance, the special attack functions as follows. When you used it and you got a critical hit, you would get a normal hit, a normal basic standard attack hit. So, for example, if you were using Blood Barrage, you would get a critical hit plus a Blood Barrage, meaning that those spells were really powerful, like Blood Barrage and Shadow Barrage and all those things, and those effects actually mattered. So Blood Barrage would pretty much be able to heal you infinitely and give you a lot of health by just using it, especially if you were critting, right? And that could also get a critical hit. So your Blood Barrage could get a critical hit, meaning you could get another basic attack, which could also heal you, but could also get a critical hit, and etc, etc. Obviously, getting consecutive critical hits like that was rare. It happened, but literally infinite amounts probably is impossible. But that is how it used to work, right? The way they change it now is that when you get a critical hit now, you will get a new type of basic ability damage from the fracture staff of Armadyl, that even if that critical hits, you will not get another hit on top of that to critical hit forwards. Pretty much in general, when people heard it, decreasing the amount of DPS. One thing that I would say though is that the effects of the spells were really cool to be able to use during PVM, because I feel like because of how abilities work, and when you use abilities the effects of spells don't really proc, it kind of made it cool that actual like spells had effects again and that they were useful instead of having to do 4-tick auto attacks, which you pretty much use a regular attack and spam Blood Barrage, for example, in between ability attacks. But that is such a tryhard thing to do, and it's very good right now with the new changes. But yeah, I do think that is a bit of a downside, that is no longer a thing for multiple reasons. One, for a cool reason, but also healing is quite useful, right? But what does that exactly mean, right? Cool, they changed some stats around. Why were people panicking? Well, when this first got announced, people were talking about, oh, this is a 40% DPS decrease, blah, 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 blah. Well, I said from the start, it's probably not that bad, right? And in reality, hey, look at that. It is not that bad. Actually, from what I understand, from the numbers that have been ran in a controlled environment where there's literally, you can just do DPS, or pretty much a dummy environment. If you do the perfect rotation, like the absolute perfect rotation, you will be losing 1% DPS. 1% DPS is not a lot. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you could say that that's a lot of damage, but that is 1% DPS as of right now. That is, I don't know if the best rotation is already found, but that is how it currently functions. But they also found that for the casual players like myself with a new rotation, it will actually be a bit better when it comes to DPS. And there is a downside to it, and that is that you need to put in more effort. But let me tell you one thing. If you've never used the Fracture Staff Armadyl, you're just watching it because you're interested, it was way too easy to use. And I will give you a little rundown of the rotation. Before the rebalance, I wanted to call it the nerf again, but before the rebalance, it pretty much functions as follows. You build up to Tsunami by using Greater Concentrated Blast and Dragon Breath. You use Tsunami, which allows you to, whenever you critical hit, you get more adrenaline. Then you would build up to your Fracture Staff of Armadyl spec. You could sometimes even do it straight away. You use that spec. Then you would use Limitless Tendrils, which will just automatically always crit, and you would get to 100% adrenaline, and then you would do your Wild Magics, Asphyxiates, Omnipower, and then just spam your Armadyl Battle Staff until your special attack from the Fracture Staff Armadyl ended, because the chances of you keeping your adrenaline high was very high because you just kept on critting and critting and critting. Pretty much how it has changed now is the first two steps are still the same. You build up to Tsunami and you build up to your Fracture Staff Armadyl spec, but now you switch to your dual wields and use Greater Concentrated Blast, do two abilities like Wild Magic Asphyxiate, use Greater Concentrated Blast again, use Omnipower and, for example, Tendrils, use Greater Concentrated Blast again, then you use Gothic spam, and then pretty much, etc, etc. That is pretty much how it has changed to what you need to do now. So you need to do a little bit more effort, but from what they have found from tests, this will actually improve DPS on the lower end of skill levels, including myself, and I quite frankly do find this. I won't be able to tell about boss times because I have a lot of boss times that are quite good and are in groups and stuff. I would have to reset them and compare them with videos and it would be all complicated. But pretty much what I found personally from my own experience, it is a more effort and it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you actually do a lot of damage and it's a lot of fun to use and it's a lot more interactive than just spamming one button, right? And sure, there's a downside here, and I do think that this needs to be addressed, because out of the 3 tier 95 weapons right now, only one of them is actually used to do damage, which is the Bow of the Last Guardian. The Fracture Staff Armadyl used to be the staff that you would camp and use whilst doing damage whilst you were under spec. Right now, you only will be using it to use your special attack, and then we're just using your dual wields. Even tier 90 dual wields are better DPS now than your Fracture Staff of Armadyl, just because of Greater Concentrated Blast and the side effect that it has to increase your special or critical chance when you do damage. And I think that is a bit of an issue. I don't think that a tier 95 should just be a switch, because that also is the thing with melee. The Langs are not the best in slot. Well, one Lang is, but the other Lang isn't because of the Scourge, which is tier 92. And the only weapon that is really best in slot and makes sense because it's tier 95 is the Bow of the Last Guardian. And I generally think that they should always have the highest tier, unless it's some wonky effect like the Inquisitor Staff where it only works on melee monsters, but don't think about those ones. The main tiers should always be the highest tier is the best weapon to use, and you should always be using it. And you shouldn't just be using it as a spec switch as it is right now. But overall, I generally think that this is a good change, because the Fracture Staff Armadyl before was way too easy to use, and it is now actually more fun to use as well, besides it being a little bit more difficult. And it's still not difficult, right, to use. But yeah, it takes a little bit more input for you to be able to actually get some good damage out of it. But overall, this is a change that just needed to be made, right? Because in the future, it would have been really difficult to think of new rewards, right? Because the Fracture of Armadyl was so powerful and had such a good effect that anything that you would have to add in the future had to be substantially more powerful than the Fracture Staff of Armadyl, and that would probably break the game and cause more issues. And even so, it is still really, really powerful as of now. So I'm very curious to see what they'll be doing next, because I was even thinking if they would add new dual wield magic weapons, because magic dual wield now is the meta to be used. Hopefully that special attack is good, and if it's not a good special attack, then, well, it's just really good to use just to do damage, because the accuracy and the damage just flat out increases because it's a tier 95. And the Fracture of Armadyl becomes even more powerful over time. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where they will be going with that. But those are the changes to the Fracture of Armadyl, and my personal opinion on it. They're not a nerf. Well, they're technically a nerf on the high end, but it's just a rebalance. And when it comes to animate dead in general, sure, the typeless damage hits are no longer being able to be countered by animate dead, but the upside of it as well is the fact that, well, you can just put on more Crypt Bloom now and just lose a little bit of DPS because you're doing more DPS than before, and then you would just be back at the DPS you did before the nerf and the same damage reduction that you had. Unless you were always wearing full Crypt Bloom, then of course, it changes a little bit. But yeah, that is just my personal opinion on the changes on the Fracture Staff Armadyl, and I guess a little bit of Animate Dead. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about these, and if you agree, disagree, and yeah, please keep it civil. But my name's Armadyl. Leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Kapow!